this is Dr. Justina Agnieszka Chevallier. Because I didn't have enough space, my videos are limited to 15 minutes each. In prior video to talk about a loss of energy in the universe. Those are, ladies and gentlemen, loss of energy. And energy I'm an expert in, but it is important that not all of energy is my expertise. I am schooled and I have been a researcher of energy associated first with production of fuel for cells in cycle of Krebs and all associated cycles to move and to produce all of bodily functions in collaboration with all of the cells and organs in very minuscule detail, and also in manifestations of lowering of that energy in different cells and organs called mitochondrial dysfunction. Mitochondria are considered like little engines that produce energy for a cell, and dysfunction means that there's something wrong in a whole organ or system or a given group of cells that presents that area as producing too much energy in comparison to other organs, causing in a person a perception of less functionality. So for instance, all other persons have appetite, had food, and a person who has that energy dysfunction is unable to digest that food despite all of appropriate measurements taken. And see, I added to this because an expert in it in university setting is, for instance, Dr. Mary Kay Koenig in Houston, Texas, as well as many other researchers that I did not work and learn from. That's why I'm not mentioning. But you see, the area of external medicine, omitted and dismissed as environmental factors, presents many times practice of research in academic medicine as well as clinical medicine that is devoid of sense because there is no cause. What does this mean? For example, if we take an electromagnetic device, a simple electromagnetic device of any sorts, or an electric device, depending which type of radiation we are talking about. Like for example here, we can take an insulated cable. And that cable, because of that insulation, it seems to be like a myelinated nerve. And not if sending impulses, because I just charged my device, it actually functions in no relation to me, and we are only able to detect what's called a acceptable amount of emissions from that cable that in human body is called aura. We don't really have a better denominator for that, but aura is considered the visible emissions of functionality of a body around the body, and you need to understand that these two work in constant correlation to, if we assume now expansion of the universe as a fact and policy of abundance and reliability of a body, diminution or lowering of energy in the body per organ or per system happens always in association to appropriate changes outside to benefit all. And if one at any point experiences discomfort, such as described in, for instance, paresia of an intestine, let's call it paresia. Paresia means slow movement of that intestine that, for example, does not form a disorder, meaning there is nothing yet established in the body that causes some sort of system in itself that is unlike other systems. And that difference actually, to me, in many cases, is very important. Listen to me, because it's for all of us, not only for doctors. It's not permanent, because not only in academia, in all medical areas, there is regeneration and change of environment, and therefore all those labels are temporary and perform adaptive mechanisms. It does not mean skip anesthesia or skip treatments, no. What it means is that aversion or suffering or pain is an instinct, impulse to derive that instinct to take action in relation to space and all, like this myelinated cable, devices and environments. And follow where first there's alleviation of suffering that does not add to the body anything that body naturally, as it is designed, does not produce, and does not actually produce at expense of life or well-being of others, including plants. And so that is true, for instance, that even mushroom in a forest, for me to see, I have to have that mushroom offered by that plant in or on behalf of the colony of those mushrooms, so that I can find it, collect it, and so that it is good to my system. So there is no arbitrary poisoning, you see, of mushrooms. Mushrooms can be, as very rare, poisonous to protect from consumption, with small quantities then fulfilling needs or depletions sometimes used in homeopathy that are not fulfilled somewhere else. What does that have to energy distribution? I will give you an example. If I have intact aura, emissions even of a very high level, such as operating on high speed ventilator or a plant mower, the one to harvest, for instance, a whole field of wheat. If I have a well-functioning aura and body, first of all, I will perceive no anxiety or that fight or flight instinct, or feeling that I am shrinking or falling apart in a very even high reduction of proximity in space when that thing is operating at high speed. And that gives false perception that it is not dangerous. That is not true. It means that I actually, or my body, is functioning well, and my electromagnetic field, that aura from functioning in my body, because I present a commodity and do not destroy but produce what makes others, including plants and animals, thrive, it makes me, for what I have inside, protected more. An example of that are vegan monks and nuns, who are able, even or dervishes, able to touch heat, while that radiation is at its maximum. Whereas when it is actually that I create demand, being a child, a female or an adult, being well or not well, depending, being exhausted or not, I create the demand to collect, for example, a vast amount of beef. And that is because I live in a very cold climate. We don't have, let's say, any greenhouses, and I am protected by laws to provide me first while others starve. So despite my high weight, I will get sick because me being provided, while my father, for example, and all of other outside kill and starve, makes me die. And then the proximity, or even that electromagnetic field of an insulated cable, creates what's called mitochondrial dysfunction in the body, to disable the organs, such as intestine, responsible for ingestion or death of the creatures outside, based on what we have observed or established in isolated, in lack of that internal and external medicine connection, like this box. It has external and internal, you see. So if I say, oh, I am looking inside and I see that this is abnormally cool. It's abnormally cool. And what it is that causes that? Well, it was actually in a temperature that was higher because there was sun, so that is external medicine. And then the temperature, as it was dropping, cooled down that liquid, which is coffee, to a temperature similar to the temperature of air as the sun was going down. And that is internal medicine reflects into, oh, my fluid is now cooler than the averaged one, which is in the sun, for instance 20 standing there. And energy flows from, as we know in physics, from the one that is at most abundant to the one that is least abundant. And this is translated, ladies and gentlemen, in energy that is like one that operates right now my N22 device that I am speaking to a recorded video, or a plane that we are hearing about right now, or that insulated cable here. That is the same way. And so there is absolutely no contagious draining of energy. Many persons, especially during Second World War, feared that because there's a perception of so-called well-researched, actually, infective yawning. So a person yawns and then the other one yawns, or mirroring. So a person, for instance, makes a face and one makes the same face. And so persons started to fear, oh my gosh, so if my uncle and 5 of my brothers came back from war with traumatic brain injury, and now they cannot speak, am I going to lose speech? And the answer is no. The answer is no, because it is always, if that happens, to benefit all. And so one needs to think, if that loss of speech generates aversion in self, and gain of speech in others generates joy, then the skill from 1 to even 20 injured in some forest, for instance, harvesting for even used wood for a new household, or this beautiful shelter in a park, that this energy flows and skill to benefit all. And my skill then as such child or such person will be increased, the same as attention and capacity for the others to learn. Now the same is with weakness and with movement and with senses, as well as cravings for foods and for substances and for other things, and with disabilities. That is why there is no fear also in the midst of a group of persons where all seem to be addicted to alcohol. If I do not feel like drinking that alcohol at all, those persons have no influence over my cravings. And that depends, of course, on internal and external, what benefits the group. On the other hand, in an area where there is no water and it's very cold, quite potent of actually warmer that alcohol is in its properties when ingested, creating warmth, because it is an actual substance that has properties of increasing of movement of cells to become warmer and changes properties of blood and stomach, etc. That is then likely that I will ingest that alcohol not because I am forced, but because it is cold and it is good spot-like for my survival, and what tells me that it is okay, potent craving or joy, as opposed to aversion to not have it and suffering. That is all. And that is what is the same for skills and energy distribution. When will I be weak? When will I not be able to speak? When it is that my activity does not benefit or prevents death and suffering of others, and that applies to all of us. when I won't be able to do so, when there's someone who is more important to the collective survival, that is quite precise, not average, and that person will have to take over regardless who that person is, based on area when I exhaust what I have to add. And so there is no fear that somebody is energy vampire, if you know what I mean.